In this episode, we talk about the film All We Imagine as Light that won the Grand Prix award at the Cannes Film Festival. We also talk about Delhi witnessing record-breaking temperatures that came close to 50 degrees Celsius. But first, we talk about the fire that broke out at a children's hospital in the capital. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Yesterday on the podcast, we discussed how a gaming zone in Gujarat caught fire on Saturday, resulting in the deaths of 28 people. Now, on the same day, only a few hours apart, another tragic incident occurred at a children's hospital in Delhi's Vivek Vihar. The fire broke out at around 11:30 p.m., claiming the lives of 7 newborns who were admitted to the hospital. Investigations have revealed that the child care facility's registration had expired, and like the gaming zone in Gujarat, it also did not have a no objection certificate from the fire department. To find out more, we are joined by Indian Express's Ankita Upadhyay, who has been reporting on the matter for the paper. Ankita, do we know the reasons behind the fire yet? Talk about what did the fire officials say about the incident?
So the investigation is still on, and the police officials have not confirmed about anything, but they have not ruled out a short circuit possibility as the cause of the fire. Meanwhile, the residents of the area have also blamed the oxygen cylinders that were stored on the ground floor of the baby care newborn hospital, and they are saying that that is something that compounded the damage. The police is now investigating the staff members of the hospital, and they are questioning them on whether they saw how the fire started. Was it a result of carelessness on the part of someone who is using the electrical equipment? These are some of the key questions for which the Delhi police is probing these staff members. The investigation so far has revealed that the 6 newborns were on ventilator support while 5 were receiving oxygen therapy at the hospital. And the fire also caused a power outage, which stopped the ventilator machines as well.
And it is also being said that the hospital's registration had expired, right?
So, yeah, the hospital's registration had expired on March 31st this year, but it's not confirmed if the hospital had applied for renewal or if it was refused registration or if it was cancelled. But a hospital generally applies to renew the registration 2 months before the expiry date. The registration is provided for 3 financial years. So you get some months to, apply for it. The health minister, Mr. Saurabh Bharadwaj, also said in his press conference that it was registered from 2021 to 2024 and had a permission to install only 5 beds. While after this incident happened, we got to know that there were more than 5 patients in the hospital.
Right. And besides this, could you talk about some of the other red flags that have now been discovered by the authorities?
Yeah, so the red flags are like very major loopholes that include the absence of emergency exits. It was found that it had non-functional fire extinguishers. Their fire alarms and water sprinkler systems were also not working. There were 27 oxygen cylinders that were kept inside the hospital. It also did not have a no objection certificate related to fire safety. The NCPCR team, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, they visited the hospital, and in fact, they also found out all these loopholes. And it was the people living in the area who reported the fire and not the hospital staff. So this indicates how they were badly trained in dealing with emergency situations.
And Ankita, you mentioned that the 7 newborns who were admitted in the hospital passed away. Talk about them and those who were injured during the fire.
So these children were newborns, like 2 to 15 days old, and they were struggling with some sort of health issues that arises immediately right after birth, for which ICU or ventilator support is required, for which their parents had admitted these children to this baby care newborn hospital. The fire erupted, and there were 6 newborns that couldn't survive after the fire erupted, and there were 5 children that survived and were shifted to various government hospitals. In case of the 6 deceased ones, the postmortem report has been submitted to the Delhi police. This is today's development. And our sources have said that the primary cause of the death was burn injury. When the parents of these children were taken to the mortuary for identification on Sunday, they claimed that the children had minor burns on the sides of their faces.
And you also had the opportunity to talk to some of those parents whose children passed away. How have they been dealing with the loss, and what has their response been?
I mean, their loss cannot be compensated. Most of these people belong to the lower income group. One of the fathers was a gardener, another one was an embroidery artist, another one was a laborer who works as a painter. These people are from East Delhi and Western UP because a majority of people from Western UP come to Delhi for treatment. These people cannot afford hospitals like Apollo or Fortis. So for them, such small nursing homes are the only places where they can go for treatment. Because per day admission cost of ICU care at a big private hospital would be in lakhs. And at this particular center, they were paying somewhere around rupees 12,000 per day. So it's a tragedy that has ruined the lives of these parents. Most of them couldn't even talk properly. They were just crying or fighting with the officials. Two of them had become parents for the first time and immediately lost their child. One of the couples had become parent after two failed pregnancies. So it's a big tragedy.
And now, after this fire, tell us about the kind of steps that are being taken by the local authorities and what changes are they planning to make in the city.
So the state health department and the health minister, they have issued several directions to different hospitals. The CDMO, Chief District Medical Officer, the MCD, fire department, all private and government hospitals have been asked to submit a status report by June 8, where they have been asked to ensure that nursing homes with a height of 8 meters will have to install water sprinkler systems and automatic smoke detector systems. CDMOs have been asked to do random inspections of nursing homes in their respective areas. There's a long list of guidelines which says that fire safety equipment will be made compulsory in every hospital, irrespective of its size. So these are some of the steps that have been taken. And we'll get to know more on June 8th what is the status of the nursing homes and hospitals in Delhi.
Right. And Ankita, have any arrests been made in the case yet?
Yes. Dr. Naveen Khichi, the prime accused, and the director of the hospital has been arrested, along with one Dr. Akash. He's a BAMS degree holder. They have been booked under various sections, including IPC Section 304, which means whoever causes the death of any person by doing any rash or negligent act not amounting to culpable homicide, and 308, which means attempt to commit culpable homicide. The Delhi court has also sent the two of them to police custody till May 30th. Police is now trying to access the digital video recorder of the CCTV system in the hospital. And they are also trying to investigate more about Akash's medical degrees.
And this incident has prompted a lot of political reactions. Tell us about the kind of statements that have been made by the local leaders in Delhi.
So there have been very strong reactions to this shocking incident from various political leaders, including the PM himself, who sent his condolences through X. The Delhi LG VK Saxena has also directed the chief secretary to initiate a probe into the incident. He also offered condolences to the families who lost their children. And Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal also promised strict action against those who were responsible for this. But BJP has also hit out at the Aam Aadmi Party government. They've questioned them about who is responsible for this tragedy. In fact, Delhi BJP President Virendra Sachdeva also visited the site of the fire, and he also offered his condolences and questioned that Kejriwal government should explain why this has happened.
And Ankita, the fact that this was a hospital and newborns were the ones who ended up tragically passing away. Tell us the kind of concerns that an incident like this raises.
This completely tells us how it's important for these small nursing homes and hospitals to ensure all sorts of checks and balances, ensuring that there's a no objection certificate from the fire safety departments has to be run properly because it has really young children as patients. So we need to ensure all these guidelines, we need to follow all these guidelines, and the authorities have to ensure that all the nursing homes and all the hospitals that are running in the national capital, where the entire North India visits for treatment, they are working properly in the sense that they have all the certificates, all the accreditations, all the equipments are working. Yeah, so all these things need to be ensured.
And next, we talk about the Indian film All We Imagine as Light, which scripted history earlier this week by winning the prestigious Grand Prix award at the 77th annual Cannes Film Festival. The film is written and directed by Mumbai-based Payal Kapadia and is her first narrative feature. This achievement marks the first time in 30 years that an Indian film has been featured in the festival's main segment. It was Shaji and Karun's Swaham which was in the competition lineup back in 1994. To talk about the significance of Kapadia's win, my colleague Shashank Bhargav speaks to Indian Express's film critic, Shubhra Gupta.
Shubhra, for those who might not know about it, could you talk about the significance of the Grand Prix award?
No, Shashank, I think there has been a lot of noise about how significant this Grand Prix award is. And I really do believe that we are still underselling it. I think we still haven't grasped the enormity of this award because it is literally the very first time a film from India has won it. Lots of people are under the sort of misapprehension that Chetan Anand's Nicha Nagar won it in 1946. But that award actually was something different. It was what the Palme d'Or used to be called. And that award was actually shared between, I think, 13 or 14 countries. So it was an award that was split between these countries and their films. This is the very first time that an Indian film has got to almost the top of the Cannes competition. And though we were all hoping, like I've said, I think billion people were hoping that she would get the Palme d'Or.
Right, Palme d'Or is the highest award you can get at Cannes.
It's the highest. It's absolutely like getting first prize in school. And this is a very tough school. It has some of the world's best eyes on it in terms of just getting to that competition section is actually quite a feat in and of itself. Because nobody really, like I said, no film in the last 30 years has got it since Shaji Karun Swaham, which was a film about a family in Kerala. And I really do wonder sometimes how coincidences are so filmy because this is a film. Payal's film is about two Malayali nurses, negotiating the really tough byways of Mumbai. But having said that, I must say that it is a feat which I think we must be celebrating really.
Okay, you've already talked about it a bit, but tell our listeners what the film is about and what was your impression when you watched it?
Okay, so it's about these two women. They are nurses. They are from Kerala. One is played by Kani Kusruti and the other one is Divya Prabha. And they live in a small little, really a tiny little room in Mumbai, which is extremely, representative of a kind of Mumbai living which we don't really see in our cinema. And so it's about these two nurses and how they're negotiating their lives. They're migrants. They've come from a state where there really are no jobs and they're here and they're leading this life, which is, you get up, you go to a hospital where they're both nurses and they go through their whole day and they come back to this same little room. And there really seems to be no break, no respite in the darkness and the claustrophobia. But yet it's hard for them to go back home because Mumbai is a city of hope and it's a city of, where the jobs are. As one of the characters says in the film, where else can we go if we really do want to, hack a life for ourselves? And their relationship, especially Kani's character's relationship with this older woman who has a home in Mumbai, but cannot prove that she has a home because she has no documents, becomes the turning point in their journey, where all three of them go to this little beautiful village by the sea in the Ratnagiri area. And there's almost like a metaphysical event that happens, and suddenly they are out in the light. And I don't want to really speak more about it because if it ever does release in India, which we are hoping that it will, there are some indications that it will, then people should discover this film on their own. So essentially a journey from the dark to the light, which is a kind of a banal way of putting it, but it speaks to the beauty of this film.
And Shubhra, this film, of course, like you mentioned, has been written and directed by Payal Kapadia. So talk a bit about her because this might be the first time that people who don't follow cinema that avidly are hearing about her.
Right. So Payal Kapadia is actually the daughter of Nalini Malani, who is an artist of some real repute. And she went to FTII, I think, in 2015. And she was part of the student agitation that took place when the government appointed Gajendra Chauhan as the chairperson of the institute. Basically, I think what the students' point of view was that Mr. Chauhan had really no the metrics on which you appoint these people who in the past have been Adur Gopalakrishnan and Girish Karnad. There have been people who have really literally been known for their cinematic oeuvre and excellence. And as far as the students were concerned, there was really no way that they could see the government appointee in this place. So they went on strike and it was a really big strike. And Payal Kapadia. I don't remember whether she actually spearheaded the kind of protest, but she was very much a big part of it.
Right, this was in 2015, and Kapadia even faced consequences for this. Her funding is said to have been cut, and even a FIR was filed against her.
By the way, those cases are still going on. And one of the things that she is going to have to do is to, go for one of those hearings, which is still dragging on. But I think part of that experience was distilled in her absolutely wonderful film, A Night of Knowing Nothing, which is actually a film about this ferment that happens in this institute. And there was a documentary footage that she had taken with many, many students. And the way she has actually put it into the film is not like, your typical talking heads where somebody says something and somebody counters it with something else. But it's done again in this extremely poetic way where there is poetry and there is images and there is visuals. It's a combination that I really haven't seen very often. And I was completely blown away by the film, which, by the way, has not found a single platform in this country. And for obvious reasons, because it is a trenchant, it is political, and it is questioning the establishment in ways that most people don't even manage to do.
And so, Shubhra, this brings us to the question, what does an award like this do for Kapadia? And what does an award like this do for Indian cinema?
There have been big awards in the past, and those filmmakers have actually gone on record to say later that, those awards didn't really help them very much in terms of getting the doors open to the next project and the next, which is what the hope that accompanies any kind of award anywhere in the world. But I have a feeling this Can Award is the big one. I think where in that room, there were very tough critics who write for some of the most respected trade dailies, people like, from the Screen International. There was the Guardian film critic, Peter Bradshaw. There was the Time magazine film critic, Stephanie Zacharek, who told me herself that, how much she really, really liked the film and that she was still thinking about, how to articulate her feelings. But the fact that she really, really enjoyed the film, enjoyed is my word. She said she really liked it. And there were many others, which I think before that, any film really hasn't got that kind of critical attention. That's one. And I have a feeling that this buzz is only going to grow because these are pillars of the critical establishment whose voices are taken very seriously. And the fact is that in a Cannes lineup is the biggest that it can be, biggest in the film festival circuit itself. So I would say that, the combination of both these things has already become iconic in some ways. And I think it is only going to grow. And her contemporaries or people who are ex-FTII or people who are in film schools will actually be able to look at this and say, look, hey, we're not in a bad place. We can do this as a parallel track to the song and dance cinema that is, the majority, the filmmakers that make in the country. There is a possibility to make this other kind of film and get to where Payal has. I think this is going to be a big one for India and I think for filmmakers like her.
But despite all this praise, this critical acclaim, putting Indian cinema on a different map, despite that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be featured prominently in theaters back home. Could you talk about what that says about the state of Indian cinema, about Indian viewers, and whether India is unique in that sense, or we find this in other countries as well?
So two things, Shashank. One is you actually raised extremely important points. The thing is that art house cinema everywhere in the world is struggling. It's a global problem. It's not just in India that we don't have theaters which are dedicated to cinema that is non-mainstream. It happens everywhere in the world. And there are films, especially during the pandemic when all these beloved art house cinemas closed down because of lack of funds, lack of, footfalls and whatever. In India is a very unique country in that sense because when Indian cinema started to come in its own post 1947, after the independence, there was a great push from the founding fathers to have a kind of cinema which would be used as, to cobble together a very striated, a very sort of country which really didn't have too many connecting threads. So Bombay cinema, and especially the mainstream cinema, was actually instructed by Pandit Nehru and by others of the cabinet that they should come up with what they used to call nationalist cinema, which would help people look at India and get an idea of India, which was a unified country rather than these bits and pieces which spoke different languages, spoke different tongues. And I think what tended to happen after that, that these spiky individual stories, which demanded of the viewer a certain kind of rigor, started to sort of get backstream. And the 70s and the 80s also brought forward the kind of cinema which was very lowest common denominators, where even the song and dance were taken over by literally the kind of film that you would have nobody coming in or people coming in with the least amount of expectation. I think this win takes me back, or rather gives me hope, that that kind of cinema that people have forgotten that Indian filmmakers used to be able to make has come back to its own. I think Payal Kapadia's voice is unique in the way that she's fearless. She goes after what she wants, and she's not really asking the viewer to lower her expectations. She expects us to be as smart as her. She's expecting us to sort of meet her halfway, and she is giving us back the intelligence that we had as viewers, the kind of rigor that we expected from our filmmakers. I think she's giving it back in some extremely lovely, fortuitous ways. I'm hoping that it will get a release here, and I'm hoping that the release will go out wide enough for some people to discover the film.
And Shubhra, we've been talking about Kapadia and her film so far, but it's not just her. You write that India featured a bit more prominently at Cannes this time, right?
This time it was, and I've called it an Indian summer at the Crusade, because there were 6 films of people of Indian origin that were making these films, of people from India. There was Payal Kapadia's own FTII batchmate, Maisam Ali, who made this, who's in retreat. Harish Khare, this excellent actor, plays a man, in search of himself, walking around in Leh Ladakh, a region we don't really see unless it is a song and dance background in Mani Ratnam's films. This is a film about discovery and self, and I think it's lovely. It was in the acid section, officially chosen. Then there was Sandhya Suri's Santosh, which is a cop drama set in the Badlands of UP. Then there's Karan Kandhari, who's another Indian filmmaker living in the UK. He makes a really wacky film about an Indian housewife in Mumbai, played by Radhika Apte, who does all kinds of weird things. And then she discovers her true self. Again, completely mad bananas film. Then there was, of course, in the classic section, Shyam Benegal's Manthan was screened to great applause. I mean, Nasiruddin Shah was there. It was his first Cannes visit. He'd never been there before. And I was standing to the side when the ovation, 7 minutes or something, that happened. And I could see how moved he was. And there was also this Bulgarian filmmaker, Konstantin Bojanov's film called The Shameless, which is about this sex worker played by Anasuya Sengupta on the run after she kills a cop. So the filmmaker is from Bulgaria. The film was shot in Nepal, but the film is set in India. And she's won the Best Actress in the Certain Regard section, which is a huge achievement for an Indian actor. Again, this has really, truly been a great year for India. And of course, and before I forget, there were through 2 student films. This is the section that Payal Kapadia had won in 2015. Her film was programmed in the Cine Fondant section, which Chidananda S. Nayak's film called The Sunflowers Are the First to Know got the first prize. And another filmmaker who's right now, Indian filmmaker who's right now in UK, got the 3rd prize. So it's been a really lovely, very, very superb year, I would say, terrific year for Indian cinema. And there've been a film in practically every section. And Payal Kapadia, in fact, made mention of this while, sort of speaking about how lovely it was to have so much Indian representation in Cannes this year. So truly an Indian summer and truly a festival to remember, I would say.
And in the end, we talk about the capital's rising temperatures. As heatwave conditions persist in Delhi, the city recorded its hottest May day in 4 years with a maximum temperature of 45.8 degrees Celsius. This is 5 degrees above the normal for this time of the year at the Safdarjung Weather Station, the city's base observatory. Going by data from the India Meteorological Department, the last time a higher temperature was recorded at Safdarjung was in 2020, that is 46 degrees Celsius. The highest maximum temperature recorded in the city yesterday was just shy of 50 degrees Celsius mark. 49 degrees Celsius in northwest Delhi's Mungeshpur and north Delhi's Narela, followed by 49.8 degrees Celsius in southwest Delhi's Najafgarh. This is the highest maximum temperature recorded at any weather station in the city this summer. Yesterday, two observatories, one in South Delhi's Ayanagar and another at the ridge near Delhi University, also broke their previous records for the highest maximum temperature recorded at these stations. The IMD has issued a red alert for Delhi on Wednesday, with heat wave and severe heat wave conditions expected in the city. The maximum temperature at Safdarjung is likely to be around 46 degrees Celsius. An orange alert is in place for Thursday when heat wave conditions are likely in a few places. Some respite from the heat wave conditions is expected on Friday and Saturday. The possibility of a thunderstorm and light rain are on the IMD forecast for these days. You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Vijay Doifore and produced by Shashank Bhargava and me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.